outside of Nashville, Tennessee. This is the award-winning podcast, ParaReality.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks for listening tonight. My name's Sandman, and I'll be your guide through this strange realm of ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, aliens, conspiracy theories, and other unsolved mysteries that I like to call ParaReality. And happy April Fool's Day to everybody as this new episode drops on April the 1st, 2022. And I'm glad to report that Eric is back here with me in the secret bunker. He's over there manning the co-host desk. Dude, so good to have you back.
Yeah, man, it's great to see you. It's been a few months, but glad things are settled in and we're back here.
Yeah, you know, just when we had a good roll going, COVID hit, and that just sent everything straight into the toilet, and we've had a hard time getting back on track ever since.
Yeah, it did. I know you made a few switches in your professional life.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're back here and happy to be with you. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, man. And so, tell us what you've been up to. What's going on with the world we live in? And
yeah, we're back up and running. I'm doing it with my sister right now, who I've slowly started to dip into the world of the mysterious and unknown. Yeah.
She's a convert.
Yeah, she is. I've started to throw a few pretty strange areas at her, but yeah, we've had some good episodes. Yep.
Yeah. I've listened to a few of your episodes. And you got a good rapport going there with your sister, which is a good thing because she's your sister. So
no, it's naturally we have a good back and forth, and in regular life, you know, we have a great relationship. So as she gets up to speed on a lot of the topics, I think it's going to go really well.
Good. Yeah. She's single. She need a date. She looking for a boyfriend.
She is single. Yeah.
Hey, you heard it here on ParaReality, folks. The co-host of World We Live In needs a date.
She needs a date.
She's hot. She's available. She's young. She's about to graduate college, so she's educated. So
she is. Got that degree.
Yeah. Get in touch with Eric.
Yep. Send me a note, and I'll hook you up with my sister.
Yeah. Don't tell her that I set her up though. She'll never know.
Out of the blue.
Yeah. She'll never know. So yeah, man. Like I said, it's good to have you back.
Yes.
I'm been missing our interactions. I mean, it's just, God, you know, seems like I said, as soon as we got a good roll going on, this COVID thing hit and just totally screwed us up. But
yeah, it threw a wrench in, I mean, a lot of people, as I'm sure everyone knows. But yeah, things seem to get back to normal. Hopefully we can.
I hope that we're on the downside of all this. We'll see.
It seems
time
like
will
it.
tell.
Seems like
time will tell. Well, man, tonight's episode's something that that you've discussed on World We Live In.
We have, yes.
And when you told me that you wanted to talk about this here on ParaReality, I was like, what the hell is this? Because I didn't think I'd ever heard of these things before, but then I started looking into it, and I realized that I had heard of what you're talking about. It's just that I knew it by a different name. So I think that the term that you used and the term that is something new, because the term that I use is obviously maybe a little bit older.
Yeah.
Of the many strange encounters in the world of the paranormal that we discuss on this show, there are often those that serve to be particularly strange and unusual. Among these bizarre accounts are tales from all over of what appears to be some sort of thin, pale being, often hunched over, crouching, or crawling. And these things they've come to collectively be known as pale crawlers. And they are every bit as creepy as you can imagine. So what are they, and where did they come from? And most importantly, what do they want? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And to learn more, you'll have to tune in, and find out. But before I do, it's time for one of my favorite parts of the show, fan mail.
Mm-hmm.
Hadn't done it in a while. Brought it back last episode. So I got, this is actually not an email. This is a tweet that I got. I always tell people that they can slide into my DMs. So this isn't actually a DM, but someone just replied to a tweet that I sent out. I went and saw some live music in Nashville. Heart cover band called Barracuda. They're excellent, freaking awesome.
I saw it on your Insta. Yeah, that where the venue that you saw it at is a great venue.
Yes,
too.
it is. Yes, the Exit Inn, or not the Exit Inn. Oh my God, kill me. Third and Lindsley. Third and Lindsley. I always get those two confused, and I don't know why, because they're nowhere near each other, and they're not even spelled.
Close.
Yeah, not even spelled similar. So yeah, Third and Lindsley. It is a great music venue. Saw them, and so I sent a tweet out, and then I got a response to my tweet, which actually had nothing to do with the tweet that I sent out. But no, it's very nice, and I wanted to read this. This comes from Twitter. Comes from Tricky Disco at Crawley 1975, and he says, "So sorry to hear about your dog, Sandman. I could hear and feel your pain listening to your latest podcast. Take it easy, bro. Great show." So thanks, Tricky Disco, for your condolences. As those of you who are regular listeners to the show, you know that I recently lost my faithful companion, Mary Jane. She was a senior dog. I got her when she was 2 years old. Had her for 16 years, so she was 18 when she died, and died very unexpectedly. It was I was not mentally prepared for that, and really was a tough thing to go through, and so I like missed pretty much almost a whole month of podcasts, and I don't know. I just kind of like last podcast. I just felt the need to share. It was cathartic. It kind of did me some good. And thank you for your condolences and the kind words.
Oh yeah, man.
As well.
Yeah, I've lost 2 wiener dogs over the past 3 years. So.
Oh no, man.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean,
it is.
When my last one passed, or I should say, my family's last one passed. Yeah, I cried for a little bit. It's just.
Oh.
Dogs are different, man. Like, obviously, I'm sure cat owners cry when they lose a cat, but cats and dogs are different, and that's no hit on cats. I love cats too, but dogs they have a different presence.
Yeah. And like I said, she was with me for 16 years, every day for 16 years, and it's a big loss. It's a big loss, but I'm doing better, and I want to thank you again, Eric, for your support and your kind words and condolences, and thank you, Tricky Disco, for the kind words, and everybody else that reached out to me through social media and everything, and sent your condolences and support. I really appreciate it. So I just wanted to take a moment and just say thanks to everyone for that. So that kind of, don't want to put a the last episode, it ended really horribly. I put a bummer. It was a really good episode, and then I ended it like, so I don't want to do that again. So,
you're good.
All right. So now that I've addressed that issue and got that behind me, I want you guys to take a listen to this. ParaReality is a proud member of the Straight Up Strange podcast network. To learn more about all the awesome podcasts that are members of the Straight Up Strange family, go to straightupstrange.com and get strange. Hey, how would you like to be an agent of chaos? What is chaos? It's the knowledgeable apprentices of Sandman, and that's what I call my Patreon account members. I'm looking for new agents, and I'd love it if you'd sign up to become one. There are 3 levels of agents, and all are extremely affordable, $5 a month or less. Each level offers exclusive content along with the ability to help create podcast episodes and even the chance to be a guest or a co-host. To learn more, head on over to patreon.com/ParaReality. 100% of the proceeds from Patreon goes back into producing quality content for this podcast. You are listening to the ParaReality Podcast, your information source for conspiracy theories, UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. New episodes drop the first Friday of every month at 8 o'clock p.m. Central U.S. time. Listen on your favorite podcast station. Turn on, tune in, and find out.
If you wish to change, you must first lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe.
Pale crawlers, also known as ash men and pale men, which is a possible reference to Pan's Labyrinth, that movie with David Bowie. Wasn't that David Bowie? I think so.
Oh, was it? I've seen the movie.
No.
It was the Pan's Labyrinth.
That was
the Spanish.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
Pan's.
Spanish
Yeah,
film.
yeah. David Bowie was something else.
Okay.
I was on such a roll and then I screwed it up. So, pale crawlers, also known as ash men and pale men, a possible reference to Pan's Labyrinth, are humanoid cryptids known for their distinctive, pale, hairless, ashen skin and emaciated appearance. They average somewhere between 5 to 8 feet in height when they stand upright, but are typically seen crawling on all fours or in a hunched position, giving them the name pale crawlers. Their faces are reported to have sunken in or black eyes, a lot of sharp teeth, or in some cases, no mouth, and no lips or noses. There have been reports of them in northern parts of North America, up in Canada, up in the northern part of the United States, parts of the UK, and even Australia. And if you know anything about the Slender Man mythos, you're probably familiar with the pale crawlers. So crawlers inhabit small enclosed spaces like caves. They're primarily nocturnal, but some have reported sightings during the day. They seem to consume animals that are like small to medium-sized, from things like mice to small deer, although they typically don't attack humans, not typically, but they have been known to. And despite their appearance, they're unnaturally strong because they look really, really frail. They're thin, but they are supposedly unnaturally strong. Most sightings are at night in open areas, particularly areas that have a lot of trees, forest, woods, stuff like that, or on the sides of roads, or during the day in enclosed spaces like in the sewer or caves or other dark, dank places like that. And on the rare occasions that they do attack people, the wounds are never fatal, and they usually don't give chase to people. Now, considering their normal prey, humans are likely too big to be worth attacking. They're known to make a piercing screech when approached. And because of their nocturnal nature, crawlers can be scared off by bright lights and fire. Gunshots are also usually enough to scare them away. They've been associated with Slender Man, and sightings are often reported either just before or just after an encounter with Slender Man. Exactly what their role is with Slender Man isn't clear. Perhaps they're some sort of proxy of Slender Man acting on his behalf, or maybe they're some sort of slave of his, perhaps the souls of those he's taken, doomed to do his bidding for all eternity. Or maybe they're just friends who enjoy hanging out together and stalking unsuspecting humans and scaring the shit out of them before they take them away. I don't know.
Could be.
Could be. So what we're going to be doing tonight is discussing the pale crawlers, recounting some stories that we've found, and just giving a general overview, because if you try to find out what pale crawlers are, you look on the interwebs, there's really not a lot out there, but there are plenty of stories, but that's about it. There's not a lot of quote unquote information about what the pale crawlers are. So we're going to recount some of these stories, some of our favorite stories, and we're going to bounce back and forth between us, our theories on what these pale crawlers are. So, Eric, you go first.
Okay, sounds great.
I know I've got my favorite story. I'm sure you do too.
I do.
I hope it's not the same one as mine. We'll see.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. Well, yeah, first would love to give a shout out to Phantoms and Monsters, Lon Strickler's site.
Yeah.
Because that guy has put in the work, because some of the accounts on his website, not just of pale crawlers, but of just anything weird and cryptid, it's a really incredible incredible database that he's built. So, and my first one does come from there, and it also comes from literally about 10 miles from where I grew up in Indiana.
Ooh.
Yeah. So this, and I sent this to my sister. I can't remember if we mentioned it on our episode of World We Live In podcast, but yeah, this is a very, very eerie one. So this takes place in early 2020, when the first COVID kind of lockdowns were going down, and you know, people were just kind of staying around their home and all that. So this kid basically says, my girlfriend and I were just getting bored hanging out, so they decided to go to a drive. They decided to go for a drive late at night, and this area of Indiana, it's populated, but it's not like a house every. There's not like 5 houses on a road. It's like a house maybe every other road. So there's a bit of land, and they said around 12:45, 1 a.m. they were driving on a back road, where it was just trees for pretty much as far as they could see. The road was empty, no houses, and they turned a corner, and as the road straightened out, this guy slammed on his brakes, and they caught a glimpse of this 7-foot figure just squatting in the middle of the road. Yeah. And said the elbows almost touched the pavement. So, I mean, when a human's squatting, their hands are touching the pavement.
Yeah.
This guy says its elbows are touching the pavement, so very long arms. Yep. Said his girlfriend screamed, and within a second, basically, of seeing it, it jumped like into the tree area, and said from where it jumped to where it landed was about 15 feet. Said he could see it stretch out when it jumped. He refers to it as a rake. I don't know if you've heard that term before.
That is what I know it as.
Gotcha.
That's why I wasn't familiar with pale crawler.
Yes, and the rake is related to Slender Man in the sense that it's a creepypasta type of term.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that.
Okay, wonderful. And said he didn't see any teeth or anything. The head was pretty human-shaped. Its face was long, blackish, sunken eyes, as you mentioned. Longer nose, and its mouth was closed. It ran away and hid in the tree. Said it didn't seem animalistic, so that I guess that implies more of a humanoid shape, which we would probably agree with. Very thin, almost bony.
Yep.
And said its legs were very long. So, yeah, I mean, again, people seeing things when they drive is always very strange, especially on a dark road like that.
Yeah.
I know you've had your encounter with the black cat or whatever.
Black dog.
Black dog, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, the reason I chose this encounter first was, like, it was, like, 10 miles from where I grew up, so very strange. I've probably driven a road very close to this, And yeah, just sitting in the middle of the road. It's almost like it was waiting for something almost. I don't know.
You may have been watched by a pale crawler as you were
It's entirely
driving
possible.
down the road.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Yeah, so very strange. But
So was the thing, I mean, you said it was in the middle of the road. Was it like eating roadkill, or did the guy say?
no, it doesn't say. It just said he saw it as they turned the corner and the road straightened out, and it was just squatting there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So many of the descriptions of pale crawlers that I have looked at are very similar to what you just described in that story by that guy. And if you've done any research, which I know you have, but for the listeners out there, if you don't know what a pale crawler is, or if you know it by a different name, like I did, I knew it as the rake.
Yes.
So that's when you said, let's do pale crawlers. I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
I can't believe I've never heard of this. Well, I have, but I digress. So
For sure.
if you are a listener out there and you don't know what a pale crawler is, but you're familiar with the rake, well, there you go. But if you don't know about them and you're going to put pale crawlers into a Google search, you're not going to see a lot of info, but you're going to get a lot of stories.
Get a lot of stories, yeah.
And you'll also get a handful or more of YouTube videos.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm going to have to address this.
Got to.
Because I think that probably 90% of the YouTube videos are crap. I think that it's just video hoaxes.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a great thing to point out because they are, I think.
Yeah.
I think they are.
Yeah.
For sure.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you're claiming this to be something that you encountered or something that you saw or whatever, then that's where I have a problem.
Yeah.
But if you are looking at a YouTube video series where the rake is a prominent character in the video series, then you have to take that with a grain of salt because it is a character.
Exactly.
But they can do, the people, God, everyday normal people can do such wonderful things with video editing equipment these days,
wild.
man. It is amazing. So my point is, if you're going to look up YouTube videos on the pale crawler, just be careful, use your discretion about what it is that you're watching, because a lot of this stuff is.
If it looks fake, it most likely is.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Now, like I said, 90% of them I think are fake. There's that 10% you're like, what the hell is that? One of the most popular videos out there is it was actually featured on, I think, Paranormal Caught on Camera.
Oh, okay.
Where it's a guy he was on the side of the road driving his car, and he stopped on the side of the road, and there was like a deer or something on the opposite side of the road, and there was some woods, and there was this pale crawler thing. It looked like it was crouching in the trees watching the deer, and you can see it moving, And however, the video is 100% legitimate. There's nothing that is faked or added to this video. There was no editing done to the video, and you can clearly see through the guy's car window this deer. And then behind the deer, there's a line of trees like the woods. And off to the side of that in the trees, there's a thing that it's got a head. It's got these long spindly looking arms, and it looks like it's crouched over. And you can see it kind of jumping around through the trees and everything. So the video is 100% legitimate. However, what they are identifying as the pale crawler crouching in the woods, jumping around the trees, is a smashed bug on the dude's windshield.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So that made it to Paranormal Caught on Camera.
Yeah.
They were all talking about it. I saw that episode when it premiered, and it didn't look right to me. Something looked off on that video, so I kept rewinding on the DVR.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a smash bug on the dude's windshield.
So do they know if the guy knew it was a
No,
smash?
no,
Okay,
no.
gotcha.
There was nothing. This was 100% legitimate.
He
This was
saw
a
it and was like,
misidentification.
okay, gotcha.
Because he didn't like in real time when he was filming this, he didn't see it, and he goes home and he looks at the footage and he's like, "What the hell is that?"
Yep.
So it's not that the guy tried to pass it off as fake.
Okay.
And I don't know if the people on Paranormal Caught on Camera realized that it was fake, or if they're like, this is just a good video, we got to put it up, or whatever. But it's clearly a bug smashed on the dude's windshield. And I actually did some deep diving into that video.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not the only person that knows that this is a bug smashed on the dude's windshield.
Okay.
I mean, it's so stuff like that.
Yeah.
You also have to be wary of.
You do, definitely.
So anyway, I've got my own favorite story.
Yeah.
About pale crawlers. I've never had an encounter.
Yep.
So, but
Same, just to put that out there.
But I do have my favorite story, and this comes. You probably know about this one. I don't know. I'm sure you do. This comes out of Detroit, Michigan, with not just one but multiple pale crawlers being seen at the same time in one location. So, there were a group of people who were having a bonfire party at the end of their summer vacation. All of these people were getting ready to graduate high school, so they were young kids, and they were actually in a residential area. As pale crawlers, actually, you see them in residential areas just as often as you see them in secluded areas.
That's the part that freaks me out about this topic. Yeah.
So they were in a residential area with a yard that backed up against a wooded area, but it wasn't a particularly rural location. There were houses that were visible on the other side through the trees, so it wasn't like a forest or anything.
Yeah.
Just a row of trees, and you could see houses on the other side. So according to the witnesses, after they got the bonfire started, around 10 p.m., people started going home. Now, I also want to point out that they say there was no alcohol involved. Everyone was stone cold sober. They were teenagers.
For sure.
So there was no illegal drinking. All right. So around 10 p.m., people began going home, and it got down to there was just 5 people at this house. And they were sitting around the fire, just chatting it up for around an hour, and then a few more friends left, and then there was just 2 people sitting out there by the fire by themselves. And their attention suddenly became drawn to some, what they described as odd noises coming from out past the light of the fire. And this is, I'm just going to read this.
Yep.
This is what happened next, according to one of the witnesses. I'm going to get my creepy background music going.
Oh, yeah, good call.
Yeah. As my friend sat facing back towards the woods and I with my back to the woods, we started hearing some noises, sticks cracking on the ground, leaves being brushed through, those sort of things. He laughed it off, saying it was just the neighbor's cat. As we sat and continued to shoot the shit, the noises continued, and I continued to brush them off under the assumption it was just a cat. However, I was a little unnerved when we both heard what sounded like footsteps in the front yard. At first, we thought our friend had gotten back, but realized it wasn't him after a few minutes had gone by. Eventually, our friend came back from dropping his girlfriend off at home, and we started talking again like nothing ever happened. A couple minutes later, however, the noises from the woods started up again, but this time they were closer, much closer. I could see my friend was clearly unnerved by this, and I reminded him he told me it was just the cat. He looked at me and told me that they didn't have a cat. He just said that to reassure himself earlier that it was nothing. I quickly got up, moved to the other side of the fire, and sat down between my 2 friends so that we were all facing the woods. After using a few choice words towards my friend to express how I felt about him letting me sit with my back towards whatever was back there, things took a bit of a turn. we saw something move in the brush. It was slight, but noticeable. It looked fairly big too, about 5 feet tall. Kind of human-like. We tried to joke it off and convince ourselves it was nothing. This worked until a few moments later when we started to see more movement. This continued for a couple of minutes until it got significantly closer and we decided to go inside. We hurried as we started to grab everything we needed to take in and put the lid on the fire pit. Throughout this time, it continued to move closer to us. It almost seemed hesitant yet curious as we saw it dart about. Nonetheless, we rushed inside. We locked the door behind us and went to the windows. By this point, it knew we were inside and was coming up to the house. It would dart by the windows as we ran between the windows in the house in hopes we could catch a glimpse of what had us so scared. We made out some basic details. It was 4 to 5 feet tall when it was hunched over, humanoid and pale. Almost white, but still a little gray kind of pale. This lasted for a good 10 minutes until we heard the scratching of nails on the wooden deck connected to the house. Around this time, it seemed to shift its focus towards the fire, as we apparently didn't put the lid back on completely. Before I knew it, my friend was calling us over to the window that faced the fire. The lid was off, and we could see the shape of it darting around the fire pit. We later found the lid about 10 feet away from the pit. Something had to have picked it up by the hot metal handle and thrown it over there. Around this time, we also noticed that it was around some of the other windows. It was then that we realized there wasn't just one of whatever it was. There were multiple. If I had to guess, I'd say about 4 or 5. Now, the witness says that not long after that, he decided to beat feet and get the hell out of there and just left his dudes at the house. I don't think I would have done it. I'd have been like, you guys, you need to come with me or we're all going to stay here and go down together. I don't know.
Yep. All for one, one for all.
Yeah. Unless I didn't like them.
That's true.
If I wasn't like, they were just like, like acquaintances. I would be like, deuces, I'm out. So, so he got out of there. And he said when he looked back, as he was leaving, he could see one of those things looking through one of the windows on the house. So, yeah. And he apparently was still texting with his friends throughout the night, getting updates. And throughout the night, they were saying how those things were still out there and stuff like that. So, I think it was a few nights later, they decided they were going to go try to see these things again, and this time they wanted to get some evidence, like some pictures or something, because they didn't take any pictures. They were too scared. Yeah. So they invited some other rando dude over that wasn't there because they wanted someone who could corroborate their story.
For sure.
So they went and basically did the same thing, started the bonfire. They were all sitting out there, and sure enough, supposedly these things came back. Same type of scenario. They went in the house. The things were running around all over. Eventually, they went out onto the deck and was watching these things, but they couldn't get any pictures because it was too dark outside. Yeah. Apparently, they were just trying to use their cell phone, I'm assuming.
I imagine.
I don't have an exact date on this. I don't know when this was.
Yeah.
But it couldn't have been all that long ago.
Yeah.
So this creeps me out because not only did this happen to the same people on more than one occasion, but there were multiple of these pale crawlers running around out there. Now, it is just a story. Take it with a grain of salt. I don't know if you can put truth to the story or not, but if it is true, this was in a suburban neighborhood, and there are multiple of these things running around out there. So I would think if it was in a neighborhood that more than just these dudes would have seen it.
You would think. I mean, it sounds like these creatures were curious about the fire. I mean, they might have been curious about the eyewitnesses, but it sounds like what caught their attention was the like glowing embers of the fire,
Maybe so.
which is a bit strange.
But they were like looking through the windows and stuff.
Yeah, they
so
were darting,
Yeah.
by the windows. Yeah, I mean, and it sounds like they're just curious. Like, I don't know. That's kind of the eerie part to me. It's like they're curious about what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you think these things are, Eric?
I mean, if I had to say right now, I would say there's some sort of underground, like something lurking in cave systems throughout the U.S. because there's a lot of stories from Kentucky, and Kentucky has a lot of caves.
Yeah, it does.
Even that whole Appalachia range. I think when me and my sister did one, we also had a story from like North Georgia, which also has a lot of mountains and caves. And the reason I say that is because they're pale and very dark. Well, not dark, but they're not white, but they're not dark. So my point in saying that is they probably aren't adjusted to sunlight, which is also why they come out at night.
Yeah.
Most of these I've not read an encounter that was during the day. And so that would be my guess. Some sort of underground dwelling creature.
A chud.
A chud.
You ever heard?
I've not heard that term.
Cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
Yeah.
It was a movie from the 80s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. You should watch it.
That
You're
we were just talking about old sci-fi stuff.
Yes,
so, yeah.
yes. It's I know it's available on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
You might could Netflix it. I don't know.
Okay.
But you're missing out on a piece of cinematic history if you've never watched this movie.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
Chud. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
And then now you're going to go watch it, and then I'm going to get a text. It's like, this was the worst movie I've ever seen in my whole entire life. But when I was a kid,
Yeah.
it was super cool.
It was great. Yeah.
It was super cool.
Yeah, I bet.
That's really, actually, in all seriousness, though, watch that movie
Yeah.
and then tell me you don't think Pale Crawler whenever you see the chud.
Lines up with that.
Yeah. It's very, very, very similar.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They even made it was so popular they made Chud 2.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I can't remember. I'm sure I've seen it.
Yeah.
I just can't remember it. It just didn't stick out like Chud
For
did.
sure.
Yeah. But yeah, cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller. Chud. You need to check that movie out. Like when you have nothing to do and you're like, gee, I am so bored. I have nothing to do. Chud.
It's Chud.
Yeah.
That's the only thing
Watch
left.
Chud and then tell me if you don't think Pale Crawler.
Okay. I'll send you a text.
All right.
I got you.
So you are familiar with Slender Man, right?
Yes.
How familiar are you with Slender Man?
I'm familiar with the game, and I'm familiar with the I can't remember specifically where the story was developed, but I'm familiar with the saga of how it was developed.
Okay. So several years ago, I got like super into Slender Man.
Yes, I remember you mentioning this.
And so Slender Man was developed. It's a creepypasta.
Yep.
He getting my creepy music going again. He was developed as part of a contest for the Something Awful forums.
That's right.
And so I'm not going to go a lot into the background because this show really isn't about Slender Man. But he's basically a character who is extremely tall, wears a suit and tie. It's always a dark suit, black tie, white shirt, has a head but no face, no mouth, no eyes, no nose, nothing.
Yep.
And he basically will stalk you, drive you insane, and then take you to somewhere. it started out was that he would take children, and then the story kind of developed from there to it could be anybody. And where he really and part of the contest to create this scary character was there was a Photoshop contest is basically what it was.
Okay.
And so the guy that invented the character had all these great Photoshops of Slender Man, and he developed the whole story mythos behind it. Well, I think it was in 2009 or 2010 when these two guys out of Alabama, home state, got to represent, what's up? They started this YouTube series called Marble Hornets.
It's coming back. It's coming back.
Yeah. So this was basically a Slender Man storyline, and this went on for years. And this thing was a huge success. There's been a couple of movies that was made off of these guys' storyline.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they got some bank from all this.
Hope so.
But this was it took them years to develop this story and for it to come to fruition. And it was like everything else. When it ended, you were like, that's the ending.
Yeah.
It's so anticlimactic. But anyway, during this whole Slender Man storyline, that's when something known as a proxy started to develop in the Slender Man mythos. And a proxy is basically just someone who's standing in for you, right? So you fast forward in a couple of years, and this YouTube series is just blowing up all over the internet. Slender Man's everywhere all of a sudden. So you start getting spin-off people who are doing their own Slender Man stories. Mm-hmm. Two of the more popular ones was one called Tribe 12 and Everyman Hybrid.
Okay.
Tribe 12 was okay. They all get really super complicated. I mean, the ability of these people to tell these stories and the way that they make these things so super complicated is amazing. It's really amazing. People are talented.
Very much.
People are talented. Yep. Anyway, all these stories got very, very complicated, and there's a lot of backstory and stuff to it. But where the rake started getting popular was with Everyman Hybrid.
Okay.
And they called him Habit, I think, was what they called him in. Excuse me. Was what they called this guy at Everyman Hybrid. Let me get a drink here.
What the palate?
Excuse me. Wow, that came from nowhere. So, so the rake was a spinoff. My point is, as I've gone around the world to tell this story, my point is that the rake was a spinoff from the Slender Man mythos. They are intertwined. The rake is supposedly a proxy of Slender Man, doing Slender Man's bidding in his absence.
Interesting.
Maybe he's the one who takes you, or maybe he just is there to further drive you insane. Don't really know.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where the rake has developed. And I don't know who first invented the rake,
Yeah.
I don't know if the rake came first and then the pale crawlers, or if the rake was made from the pale crawlers, from their
like an inspiration.
Yeah,
Thing,
I don't know.
Okay.
But I do know that the rake first became very popular as a spinoff of Slender Man. So that's how I know the pale crawlers.
Gotcha.
Was from all of the time that I spent doing deep dives into the Slender Man mythos. Now, stuff that I have seen online started out as this is the rake. And that, of course, was, I think, BS, because the rake wasn't a real thing unless they were basing the rake off of pale crawlers, and what people were seeing and posting were pale crawlers, but they weren't known by that at the time. People just known it as this is the rake. But that anyway, so that's how I know the rake is from Everyman Hybrid.
Now, are you suggesting that this could be some sort of tulpa, like a thought form created by a mass? As so many people are thinking about it and visualizing it, that it's just like,
ding,
yeah,
yes,
okay.
because I believe that Slender Man, not the version that we see online, but I believe that there is a version of Slender Man that actually is real because of the tulpa effect.
Yeah.
Because I think so many people believed that this was a real thing that it just kind of brought him into being. And I think the same thing is a possible explanation for the pale crawlers.
Yeah.
The difference between Slender Man and the pale crawlers is you don't see multiple Slender Men hanging outside your house, but apparently you can see multiple pale crawlers. So, you know, that kind of takes the tulpa thing and turns it upside down a little bit, because I've never known of any instance where people have created a tulpa where there has been multiple tulpas. It's always a tulpa.
Single, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the story, I can't remember who it was. If it was the woman in Nepal who created the monk that, like, it was a thought form created, but it turned like mischievous and bad.
Yep. Yeah. I know that story, but I can't. I'm like you. I can't remember the details, but I know the general outline of it. Yeah. So yeah, I think that the rake could possibly, or the pale crawlers could possibly be a tulpa. Now, are they related? I don't know. They could be two totally different things. The rake may be the tulpa, and the pale crawlers may be something totally different. I really, I'm open for that being a possibility.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I do have a story here from 2005.
Okay.
Takes place in the French Quarter of New Orleans.
Oh yeah, I know this story.
Yeah, and so just a brief overview if you don't know New Orleans. Old city. French Quarter is one of the most historic places in the U.S. probably.
Been there a few times. Love it.
Yeah, I need to go. Let's
do it.
Yeah, let's do it. So yeah, this happened in 2005, and this woman was with her boyfriend in the French Quarter. They were taking a quiet stroll through the streets of the French Quarter. They noticed everything went eerily quiet.
Never a good sign.
Never good. Sounds just seemed to fade out of existence, and the witness says, I noticed it became eerily quiet, not something that happens there, especially as people stumble to their hotels. The boyfriend, she says he also noticed something because he gripped my hand quite hard and picked up pace. He had a strange look to his face, and I struggled to keep up. He was taking odd routes. Finally, I caught what was making him act bizarre. I followed a split-second glance of his to a building. The best I could say, it looked like a dingy, pale Spider-Man. A dingy, pale Spider-Man going up the side of a building. I remember him harshly whispering not to look, just keep moving. He took us to Bourbon Street, and they... This was during the week, so there weren't a lot of people out, but Bourbon Street is a more populated spot.
Mm-hmm.
And supposedly they kept seeing this thing on the roof, and it was, in a sense, tracking them.
Yeah, not good.
And then they just kind of lost sight of it. So that's a strange one. One, because it was scaling a building.
Yeah,
very odd.
Also in a heavily populated area.
Yeah.
I know it was late at night, and the area that they were in was kind of, sparse at that time, but
Yeah.
New Orleans, dude, there's a lot of people. There's a shit ton of
Yeah.
people there.
Big city.
Yeah. And once again, you would think that someone besides them would see this thing. It's New Orleans.
Well, that's also in this description. They say that other people were about, but no one seemed to be distracted by it, which I think lends credence to the fact that it is some sort of thought form that not everyone's privy to.
Yeah. Maybe only certain people can see this thing.
Yes, because I don't think from my understanding of a thought form, and correct me, it's not just because somebody creates it, not everybody has access to it. Like,
right.
You have to spend time and energy to address something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is kind of my experience with Slender Man, because as I did a deep dive into this. I got really into Slender Man.
Yeah.
And not because at first, I'm not going to lie, when I first learned of Slender Man, I forgot how I freaking found out about it. When I first learned about it, I was like, is this thing real? What the hell is this? And you do some searching, you find some stories, and you find some YouTube videos, and you're like, what the hell is this? And then I found the Marble Hornets thing, and then I started really, it's like, okay, this is not a real entity, this is part of a storyline. And then that's how I found out about the Something Awful forums and how it was created and stuff. But by this time I was hooked. I was fascinated.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I got to keep watching this Marble Hornets thing. So I started watching all of these YouTube series on Slender Man. And there was some little kid that did his own Slender Man YouTube series.
Geez.
It was pretty good.
Was it?
It was pretty good. It had a beginning and an end.
Uh-huh.
The middle was kind of muddled, but he did have an ending to it. It was all a very little kiddish thing, and you could tell that he had to involve his parents in it because he had to get his mom to drive him to all these areas and stuff, and she would be like sitting in the van.
Yeah.
But it was pretty good. But anyway, so I started watching all these YouTube series on Slender Man and reading all these stories and stuff, and I had my own Slender Man like experience. I never saw like a big, tall, suit wearing, no faced dude, peeking in my windows or standing in my doorway or anything like that. But I started having some weird stuff that was happening to me, so much so to the fact that I was like, I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
So I actually stopped watching all Slender Man stuff, doing all this research and everything. And I had a friend of mine come over and actually like do a blessing of me and my house, so all this weird stuff could stop. So it was a tulpa. I was, in essence, I think, creating my own Slender Man type tulpa, and that's how I think Slender Man works.
I'm with you 100%. Your brain is such a powerful tool, and we don't even understand how powerful our brains are, but I completely agree with you.
Yeah. So if that can happen, like I said, to a Slender Man, why can't it happen to a pale crawler?
Definitely.
Or the rake? The more and more I think about it, the more I'm thinking the two probably could be separate entities. I don't know, but they look very similar. Yeah. It's a very pale humanoid looking creature that is so emaciated you can see the ribs and the spine, black eyes, sharp teeth, long spindly arms and legs, and it's never upright. It's always hunched for some reason.
Yeah.
That's the rake, that's the pale crawler.
It is 100%. And I think the interesting thing about this is it's like both Slenderman and the rake pale crawler they're humanoids. So it's not like it takes a lot of thinking to conjure up the image of these things.
Right.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if you've seen this show, but The Haunting of Bly Manor.
I've seen 1 or 2 episodes of it.
Well, they do an interesting thing where one of the ghosts that is haunting this house is a woman who lived in the past, and because people had forgotten about her, she doesn't have a face.
Oh.
So because no one remembered what she looked like, the face is gone. And I think it's interesting that these pale crawlers and Slenderman don't have a face because possibly no one is thinking about somebody specific. It's just a general figure.
Wow, that's a great theory, Eric.
Yeah. So that's where I'm standing. Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of on the fence. Like I said, the more I talk about it, as I was preparing for this episode and everything, I was like, the rake, hill crawlers, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. But now that I have started like talking out loud and bouncing ideas off of somebody else, I'm like, maybe these things aren't the same thing.
Mm.
Maybe the rake is something totally different. Just looks similar.
Yeah.
But I'm open. I'm open.
For sure. And I do know that I did say earlier in this episode that it was some sort of underground as we talked about the Chud.
Yeah.
So I think even my just talking about it out here has evolved a bit.
Yeah. It's amazing at what just like talking out loud will do.
Oh, yeah.
So the fact or the possibility that it could be some sort of Chud,
yeah.
minus the cannibalism, but so an but or HUD, 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 yeah. So it could be a HUD, a humanistic underground dweller, right? Could be a HUD. So why are we just now starting to see these things? Is it because we are encroaching upon their territory? Because, I mean, the human population's not getting thinner. We're just getting more and more, and we keep taking away all of these natural habitats for things like bear, deer, squirrels, rabbits, out, So who's to say these things aren't, forest dwelling creatures or cave dwelling creatures, and suburbia is creeping up on them, and they're like, well, let's get out and let's see who these people are that's invading our territory, because that's why we're seeing them in suburban areas now.
Exactly. I have no issue with that theory at all.
So we have several theories. So it could be a tulpa, it could be a HUD, could be associated with the rake.
Yeah.
So there are several different theories out there. So if you see one of these things, my best advice would be to not make any sudden moves. Although there are no known instances, or very few instances of them actually attacking a human, most of the time they just seem to be more curious.
Seems like it,
yeah. However, they look dangerous.
Yes, from
they
what we can
look
tell.
really dangerous.
Very dangerous.
So I would not advise trying to interact with these things. I would advise just like, don't make any sudden movements and slowly walk away. I don't, of course, there's all kind of video on YouTube. Could be real. Some of it may be fake. Some of it may be real. I don't know. I don't know about taking a picture of this thing with a flash or anything like that, because they say that, flashlights and stuff scare it away and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. If you take a picture with a flash, will it scare it or will it make it mad?
Well, that one story with the fire, as soon as they put the fire out, it seems like that's when the things started encroaching on their territory. So maybe. And
then they took the lid off of the fire pit.
Yeah.
And the fire started back, but they stayed around apparently. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
It's a weird. That creeped me out because, like I said, it was in a rural area and there was more than one. So
for sure.
All right. So before we wrap it up, Eric, final thoughts from you, sir.
Yeah, it's I mean it's an evolving topic for sure. I honestly on Phantoms and Monsters I see a new story every week. So again, Lon Strickler's site is incredible.
Yeah.
Great, and they're all firsthand accounts. I would say most are. I haven't read all of them, but most of them are firsthand accounts. So it's an evolving topic. I'm on the Tulpa grind right
Okay.
now. I think that's what I've come down to. So, but always evolving. Yep.
Well, despite having been seen on three continents and several countries, the actual existence of pale crawlers has yet to be proven, in my opinion. There are plenty of YouTube videos out there purportedly showing these pale crawler things. However, those videos can be easily explained away as misidentifications, splattered bugs on windshields, or downright hoaxes. Not all of them, but a lot of them. The only exceptions are the Fresno crawlers that we didn't really talk about, but that's again in my opinion. Those things they're freaky as hell, but I don't think they're pale crawlers. Once again, that's my opinion. But the Fresno crawlers, I wish we had time to get into this, but the Fresno crawlers looks like sheets walking. Like it's like
it's just the
someone
legs.
took a sheet and put like a balloon in it and then tied underneath it with a big rubber band and then had two spindly sheet legs, and these things are just walking. They were captured on a home surveillance camera in 1997.
Yeah.
And there's been a couple of videos that I've seen other than that, but I don't know if that thing is a hoax or what, but it looks really, really freaky.
I've heard the story, have not dove into any conspiracies around it.
I haven't really, but there are, if you look up pale crawlers, you get the Fresno night crawlers in a search. So I don't think that those two are related because they look totally and completely different. Yeah. So once again, that is my opinion. However, if, and I say if, you believe that Slender Man is real, and I do, then you must also accept that pale crawlers are real too. After all, they've been associated with the Slender Man on more than one occasion, and Slender Man is a tulpa. He came into existence because so many people believed in Slender Man that they actually willed him to life, so to speak. Therefore, if Slender Man is a tulpa, then it stands to reason that pale crawlers can also be tulpas. But you have to kind of stretch your imagination here. But then again, I guess you have to stretch your imagination on just about everything that's talked about on this podcast, right?
Agreed.
And you may be out there listening to this podcast saying, well, how can you believe that Slender Man is real and not pale crawlers if the two of them, those things are connected? Well, that's a good question, but the answer to that is that I never said that I don't believe in them. I said that their existence hasn't been proven yet. The truth is that we may never know exactly what they are or if they're even real. Perhaps the only way to truly find out is to let one of them take you. And that, my friends, just isn't an option as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed, brother.
And that about does it for this episode of ParaReality. Thanks for listening. But before we close it out, I got one more commercial we got to sit through.
Does the feeling of your throat tightening in fear, leaving you unable to scream, excite you? If the answer to these questions is yes, then you should listen to Scared to Death, stories of suspense, science fiction, and horror. Scared to Death airs the third Friday of every month at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Tune in for the fright of your life.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Are you fed up with the way things are going in the world? Have you always wanted to say whatever was on your mind without having to listen to someone bitch about it or suffer any repercussions? Well, me too. That's why I created the Set It Off podcast. I'm sick and tired of the stupidity that's going on around here, and I'm going to let everybody know how I feel about it. So hop on board this train and fasten your seatbelt because I'm about to set it off. Set It Off can be heard on your favorite podcast station. New episodes drop on the fourth Friday of every month at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. You never know what I'm going to say next. Hope that you enjoyed tonight's episode of ParaReality. It was a pleasure having Eric back in the secret bunker again here in the co-host chair. Thanks for coming in, Eric.
Hey, yep, always glad to be here. Good to see you, and glad to be back on the podcast.
Now, if you want to leave a comment about what you heard tonight or anything else about the podcast, there are a few ways you can do that. Here's all the ways you can get in touch with me. I'm going to run down them real quick here. First of all, quick and easy, down and dirty, email me, sandman@parareality.com. That's sandman@parareality.com. Or you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/sandman.parareality. That's home on the official Facebook page for the podcast. Or you can follow me on social media. My handle on Instagram and YouTube, both are the same, at ParaReal Radio. That's at ParaReal Radio. You can just post on my wall there, slide on into my DMs like Tricky Disco did, and leave me a message, follow me there. You get to find out all about post some stuff from my personal life sometimes, like concerts and stuff I go to, and interesting articles from paranormal world and all that sorts of good stuff. So those are all the ways that you can get in contact with me here at ParaReality. Oh, don't forget the studio line. You can also call in. I'm always looking for people to call into the show. If you got a story you want to tell, or if you just want to like leave me a comment like you suck or I hate you or whatever, you can always just call into the studio line right here at the Secret Bunker. The number is 615-692-1170. That number again is 615-692-1170. Leave me a message. Just remember, there's about a 3-minute limit on the voicemail, so if you get cut off, you can call back and pick right back up where you left off. And if you do leave me a message, you are giving me permission to play that back on the air. If you don't want that to happen, just let me know somewhere in your message. So those are all the ways that you can get in touch with me here on ParaReality. Eric, how can they get in touch with you, the world we live in?
For sure. You can email me at worldweliveinpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at worldwelivepod, and listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Those are the big guys.
Yeah.
Sure.
So don't forget, everybody, to visit the website here, parareality.com. That's a place where you can keep up on all the latest paranormal news from all around the world. I've got an entire page of the website devoted to that, and it's updated almost daily. You can shop in the ParaReality store, buy some swag, help support the show, watch some of the horrible videos that I've made for the podcast over the years. And I've also got tons of archives in the archive section that's all available for free. You can listen to hours and hours and hours of free ParaReality podcast. It's just the best thing ever. If you have nothing to do on a Sunday and you're bored, hey, I'm going to listen to 24 hours of ParaReality. You can do it because it's there, and it's all for free. All for free. So, we're available on your favorite podcast station, network, platform, whatever you want to call it. Wherever you get your podcast, ParaReality's there. iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Spreaker, Player FM, Castbox, Deezer. I can't think of anything else.
That's a lot.
Yeah. It's everywhere. Anywhere you can get your podcast, ParaReality's there. So if you got one of those smart speakers and you got a podcast app on it, just say, hey, play the ParaReality podcast. And I'm all over the place on that. So, Eric, when's the next episode of World We Live In? going to be out?
It'll be let's see, next week, April. I guess it'd be that Friday.
Oh, so you're going to drop an episode when this episode drops.
Is that
in
the first? I
competition? Yeah.
won't do that. I will do the next week.
You can drop. I mean, it's not like, you know.
We usually do a Friday
Okay.
episode. Yep.
All right.
So
Be listening for the new episode either Friday the 1st or the next Friday.
the next Friday.
You can
after
drop
that.
one on Friday the 1st. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah. We're not in competition
Sounds
here.
good.
We're brother. We're all friends.
We are.
We
That is
support each
true.
other.
That is
We
true.
support each other. All right. Speaking of April the 1st, that's when this episode here is airing. But the next episode of ParaReality is going to drop on April the 15th. That's a Friday, the third Friday of April. That's April the 15th at 8 o'clock p.m. Central U.S. time. Make sure you tune in, and find out. I hope that this podcast opens your mind up to new ways of thinking, expands your consciousness, and produces a change in the way you see the world. If you wish to change, you must lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe. I hope you have a wonderful evening, a great weekend, and I'll see everybody again in a couple of weeks.
If you wish to change, you must first lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe.